then, we were importing about 40% of our oil. Now it's 70%. So it's worse with the Department of Energy. They have completely failed in their mission, yet the department is still here. Why don't we just get rid of it? That's $30 billion a year we don't have to spend. Why don't we spend that money drilling for oil instead of sending it to Washington? There's no oil in Washington.
They should put you on their budget committee.
Well, I joke, they say we have a budget committee. We don't even have a budget, right? How can you call? The federal government right now is spending $1.60 for every dollar it collects in taxes, right? If you sat down at your family table and you said, okay, let's do a budget, okay? We earn $100,000 a year. So, okay, great, let's spend $160. And you're going to call that a budget? A budget is spending what you have, right? Now, I can see that, you put a budget up, right? And then, there's a catastrophe, there's a fire, you lose your job, and, now you can't meet your budget. But to intentionally start off spending 60% more than you earn, you would think someone in Washington, they would go back and say, we can't submit this budget. It doesn't work. The numbers don't add up. Let's cut some of this spending out. They act like it doesn't even matter. At this point, why even have a budget? Just dispose of the pretense. Just spend. Right? What's the point? So we got to bring some sanity to Washington. These guys think there's no consequences to what they're doing. There are huge consequences. 17% of the country is unemployed right now. Right? They tell us it's 10%, but it's actually 17 when you count all the people who are giving up or all the people who are working part-time but who really want to work full-time. That's a consequence of what they're doing, and it's going to keep getting worse. The more bills that they pass to create jobs, the more jobs they're going to destroy. The more they stimulate the economy, the more they're going to sedate it. Somebody has to let them know that they're doing the wrong thing. And that's me. It's like if anyone ever watched Seinfeld. Well, there's one famous episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza realizes that every instinct he has is wrong, and if he just did the opposite, then he would succeed. Well, that's what Washington needs to do. If every time they have a bright idea and they decide what they want to do, if they can just enact the exact opposite of that, we can solve these problems. It's that simple. That's how off they are. It's like if you were going to try to if you were going to write a script to destroy our economy, they're following it exactly. They're not doing anything wrong. Any other questions?
Peter, what was your major in college?
I majored in accounting, business. I was at undergraduate business school, so I finance and accounting. And I argued a lot with my professors because there were a lot of Keynesian professors at UC Berkeley. And now there are a lot of young kids that are arguing with their professors because of me. That's one of the things about this campaign is I've got a lot of support. I've raised money now from almost 20,000 people, I think. A lot of them are young people. They're not clients in my brokerage firm. And they discovered me on the internet. Back when I was young, we didn't have the internet. And right now, we're getting to the young people because it's not just the propaganda they're getting from government schools or just CBS nightly news. They can actually reach out on the internet and get the information themselves. And we're winning the young people. The young people are now moving to conservatives, libertarians, Republicans. They're not all going to the left, which is what they used to do. And that's the natural tendency. When people are young, they're more idealistic and they don't think things out. So they become socialists. Or they become Democrats. And as they get older, they realize, they get into the real world, they start a business, they pay taxes, and they realize that this is all wrong. And then they become Republicans. I guess the Democrats just never grew up, and they just never outgrow that. That's why they think. They think Democrats think Republicans are evil, right? They just think we're mean. No, we're not evil. We just understand the consequences of their policies. See, we don't think they're evil. We just understand that they're ignorant. And we try to help them, we try to educate them, but they just think we're mean. Gotta be more questions. Yes?
I was wondering if you thought that conservatives in the Senate right now that you could ally with, do you have any specific senators?
Yeah, there's some senators, I hear some of them say things, but you have they had the stimulus bill, not the stimulus, the class for clunkers. They all voted for it. There was one, their housing, the $8,000 housing credit, not a single senator voted against it. So a lot of these guys are still clueless. They're still, why are we subsidizing people to buy houses. Now, the Congress, see, all these bailouts, they'll say, well, this is to help, the home buyer. It doesn't help the home buyer. It helps the home seller. He's the one that gets the money, right? All they're doing is enabling people to pay more for houses. If we didn't subsidize it, the prices would just be lower. It never benefits the buyer to pay a higher price. It always benefits the seller. But most of these real estate bailouts are designed to bail out the lenders. They couldn't care less about the homeowner. It's the lenders that are getting all the money because it's just flowing to the bank. It's flowing to the creditors. I mean, so I don't know that there are that many senators that actually understand the real problem. They still want consumer spending. They still want to try to reflate the real estate bubble. They don't understand that we can't solve these problems until real estate prices reflect true supply and demand. Because in order to keep real estate prices at artificial levels, we have to keep interest rates at practically zero. Well, we're never going to rebuild an economy with 0% interest rates. Everybody focuses on the fact that low interest rates are great for the borrower. Yeah, but they suck for the lender, right? Why would anybody want to lend at zero? So no one's going to save. We're not going to have any capital. And of course, the bottom line is, even though interest rates are low, they're not low for entrepreneurs. They're not low for businesses. You can't get any money. They're low if you want to buy a house. They're low if you want to buy a car. But if you want to make a car, oh hell, you're not going to get any money. If you want to make it, it's difficult. So that's backwards. We have to have capital available for business. We can't have it all, diverted to consumption. It can't go to student loans and credit card debt and government spending because they're going to bankrupt the country. And a lot of these senators don't understand it. But I think that they can. I think that they can be made to. They can be educated. And there are a number of senators that are having problems with the size of the deficit, with the size of the government, with the fact that we're now adopting really a socialist methodology in Washington of central government planning, of the government trying to decide where capital should be allocated, which industries should get money and which industries shouldn't. I don't want government making any of those decisions. I want the free market to decide what gets funded and what doesn't get funded. Because in a market, it's really simple. If I'm a businessman and I think that the public wants X, whether it's a certain source of energy or whatever kind of product, I think that this is what the public wants. If I guess wrong, I lose money and I stop doing it. I go broke. If I guess right, then I make money and then I expand. I reinvest my profits and I keep growing. The market is sending me a signal. The profit is a signal that I'm doing it right. A loss is a signal that I'm doing it wrong. In government, when government does, there is no signal. Because it doesn't matter if there's a profit or a loss because it's not their money. So if the government does something wrong, they just keep doing it. And they just keep spending money. There is no natural break to tell them that they're doing the wrong thing. So we've got to move back towards market pricing, market mechanisms, market allocation. And the problem is when a lot of people talk about free markets, the Democrats always say, oh, we tried that and look what it got us. See, they can't pull that with me. Because we didn't try that under Bush. We tried the opposite, right? Every single thing that Barack Obama has done is simply Bush's policy, just bigger. It's the same strategy, it's the same philosophy, only, 10 times the size. It's Bush on steroids. That's all it is, right? And I want to repudiate all those policies. I want real free market policies. I want to cage up the government so that the free market can flourish. And that's the only way we're going to get out of this mess. I mean, we can dig ourselves into this deeper hole, but then what are we going to do? I mean, this country is not going to be familiar to anybody. I mean, people say that we're pushing all these debts on our kids. These big debts. No, we're not. Our kids aren't going to stay here and pay these debts, right? This is going to blow up on this generation right now, right? The bonds that we're issuing, they're not 30-year bonds. They're short-term bonds. The national debt comes due in a few years, right? We got to pay it, right? We're hoping that the creditors will roll it over, just like Bernie Madoff was hoping that that everybody would nobody would ask for their money back, but eventually they do, and we're there, right? I mean, a lot of people got into trouble with their adjustable rate mortgages. Right? Why did people take on adjustable rate mortgages? Because thanks to the Fed, they got a low interest rate for the first few years. They got a teaser rate, but when the teaser rate matured and their mortgages doubled, they couldn't afford the payments, and then they were broke. Well, we've done the same thing. The federal government does not borrow for 30 years. Why? Because the rates are too high. They borrow for 30 days because the rates are a lot lower. Okay, fine, rates are low now. What happens if they're high in the future? We're broke.